Good morning, this is John with the Appalachian channel, and most of everybody in the world already knows the news of the passing of Dolly Parton. I wanted to take a little time this morning to reflect back on her importance and her heart for Appalachia. You see many entertainers become successful and famous and rich, but yet they forget about their hometown and the people where they came from. Especially if they came from a hard background, a place that many people would be embarrassed about growing up in. But Dolly wasn't that way. And we're going to talk about her, and I might end up crying a little bit because it took me a few days to even be able to put this together, this video, to tell people. This is August the 27th, and she's been passed away for a few days. And I'm going to talk a little bit about her legacy and what she's done to, not so much about the music, but what she's done to help people and what she meant to Appalachia. Get you a cup of coffee and let's sit down and let's do a little reflecting back on the importance and the work and the charity that Dolly Parton done for Appalachia. Because, you know, this is the Appalachian channel, and we're right here. We grew up, I grew up, you know, just an hour and a half from Sevierville. Going to Sevierville was something that we've done from a kid, and it's a big part of our life, and we're so proud of everything that Dolly accomplished here in Appalachia, East Tennessee, and even in the world. Everybody loves Dolly. So get you a cup of coffee, come back and sit down. Let's get started. All right, let's talk about Dolly's life in Appalachia. And Appalachia is not a mountain region as much as it is an area that encompasses many counties throughout about 13 different states in the United States. Goes all the way up north quite a ways, and then through, I think West Virginia is the only state that every county in it is considered the Appalachian region. And the Appalachian region is an area defined by poverty back many years ago, when they were trying to change things in Appalachia and bring you know, in better schooling, better jobs. Appalachia's always been a poor region, but we've been a region that's very beautiful. We have our rivers and our mountains, and it's a beautiful place to live. And now it seems like everybody wants to live in Appalachia, even, you know, back in the days when everybody wanted to make fun of hillbillies and not being educated. And, you know, it's true. Appalachia didn't have the education and the opportunity that the big cities did. But then again, we didn't have the big cities. So when I first started out documenting things many years ago as just a hobby, trying to find something that eventually one day that I would be able to do full-time like I do now on the Appalachian channel. But I always admired my dad because he grew up in a very poor coal mining community in Campbell County. There was no electricity, no running water. And my mom the same way. They both grew up pretty close to each other. They got married at a very young age, and they moved up north to find work because life in Appalachia was hard. You either worked in the coal mines, you cut timber, you farmed on top of doing all that. That wasn't enough to feed your family, so you would have to come home, grow a garden, have hogs, pigs, cows, whatever it took to keep your family fed. It was a hard life in Appalachia because we didn't have those high-paying jobs that the big cities up north had, the industrial jobs and so forth. But then again, we didn't have the pollution, the noise, the violence, the crime. So, you know, there was a trade-off on some things, and I'm glad that Appalachia was saved from all the industrialized factories. You know, I hate going by a place and seeing a factory with a smokestack and just stuff pouring out of that you know that's going back into the atmosphere. But, you know, in Appalachia, we don't really see that. I live in a barn because I love the Appalachian lifestyle. The simple life is the one of the sayings I use for the Appalachian channel, and discover the simple life. And so many people's trying to do that now. The hustle and bustle of the world has changed people, and they want to sit back and relax. And we're getting so many people that's moving to East Tennessee, North Carolina, areas where life's a little slower. And so when I started the channel many years ago, or started trying to build the channel, let me put it that way, I wanted to have what I called Appalachian heroes, people that grew up in poverty that maybe didn't have the same opportunities that other people had in a big city with education and job opportunities. But I always admired people that grew up here in Appalachia, and many of them made money in the coal mining business. They had no education. There's one fellow here that became a multi-millionaire in the coal business, but he didn't have a formal education, but was a very smart man. Same way with my dad. My dad got to go to about the 3rd grade, and at that point, like so many Appalachian families, he had to start working. He didn't have time to go to school. There was so much needed to be done just to keep the family fed. It was a constant battle, growing food, gathering coal, getting wood, whatever it took to survive with no insulation in most people in 1- and 2-room houses with about 6 to 12 kids. And so that's the way it was with Dolly. You know, she grew up in a very poor, typical Appalachian home, and her father didn't read and write, and I don't know about her mother's education, but her mother was very supportive of her talent. Even though her dad didn't read and write, they were all very talented. Every Parton could play something or sing something or do something. They had some kind of ability. So just because they were born in a poor region without education did not mean they were not talented. Just like my dad. You know, he had talent, and that has nothing to do with education, you know, and drive. Just like Dolly had so much drive, she never slowed down. And my dad, like I said, he came out of the mountains when they were about 16, my mom and dad, and they got married and they moved up north for a while, but eventually their hearts brought them back to Appalachia here. And so Dolly grew up much like my mom and dad, so that was something that resonated with me about, you know, okay, she grew up 12 children in her home. She was the 4th child born. I'm sure being the 4th one with all the other ones coming along that she helped take care of the other kids. I know my sister Debbie, she's 10 years older than me, and she helped take care of me a lot. So I can imagine that Dolly's life was full of chores, full of things to do around the farm, and also full of love. She always talked about that they grew up poor, but they had love. You know, there's a lot of people that grow up rich and don't have the love in their home. And so, you know, she grew up unapologetic about how she grew up. She grew up poor, and we'll get into that more, and I hope to continue to do more videos. Actually, I'm going to do another video in a couple of days on Saturday. This is Thursday, August the 22nd, and Dolly passed away a few days ago, and I'm sure by this weekend on Saturday the 29th, August 29th, there'll be a lot of people there to see her statue and bring flowers. So we're going to go there and document that. So before I forget that, I'm going to tell you that before we get any further into the video, because we're just really getting started about the early years of Dolly and her starting and how she changed things. But I believe that she has a heart that really cared about the people more than the money that she made and even the fame that she made. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit as we go through this, but let's go back to when she was first born, growing up in that poor home. She was born, I think, January 19th, 1946. Could be wrong on that date. I know she's 20 years older than me. I was born in 1966, and she was born in 1946 in January. So by the time she was 5 years old, she already had that God-given gift to write songs, and she started writing little songs, and she went on to write 3,000 songs or more in her career. But as the family would sing and play and get together, and that's what you did a lot back in Appalachia in those days, because you didn't go to the movie theater. Dolly talked a lot about never really getting to go to see the movies growing up, or see they didn't have a television. They had the radio, and they listened to the Grand Ole Opry. So that was their entertainment. They'd get around and listen to people singing, and they would sing along, I'm sure, and play, and just have a good old time around that radio. And the whole family got in with that, because that was family time, and people did more together back then, and that's some of the strong memories I'm sure she had of growing up. But my family was that way too. They got together, and unfortunately we didn't have too much singing talent on the Ward side of the family. There's a few of us that could sing a little bit, but I never could sing or play anything, and so my talent's more on documenting what I do here on the Appalachian channel. So family is everything, and it was to Dolly, and not just her family. Everybody in the area she grew up in Sevierville, Sevier County, Pigeon Forge. She loved her people, her family, the Appalachian people so much. She kept on and on giving. But by the time she was 7 years old, she got a guitar, and she started learning how to play it with that natural gift and natural beauty. And by the time she was 10 years old, her uncle had been taking her around and letting her sing at churches and sing at different events going on, and she got invited to come to the Kaz Walker show, which Kaz Walker show, I remember that as a kid. Now, I don't remember when she was on the Kaz Walker show, because that was 10 years probably before I was born, because she was about 10 when she was on there. But that was a local show out of Knoxville. It was played on WATE, I believe, and that was the channel, still there. Kaz Walker had multiple chain of grocery stores back then in the 50s and 60s, and was very successful. And what he did to promote his businesses was he would do a morning show on TV before the news would come on. He would get on there and have different people come and sing, and he would talk, and he would gripe, and he would talk about whatever he wanted to talk about, because it was his show. But a young girl by the name of Dolly Parton ended up on that show, and that was the first time that she was ever really on TV, I believe. And it was just local TV. It wasn't really national TV or anything. But I've heard Dolly say in many interviews that as soon as she got in front of an audience for the first time and sung, and they clapped for her, she was hooked. She knew, without a doubt, there's no need of looking at any other thing to do in her life, that she was going to be an entertainer. She knew that her talent made people stand up and clap and cheer, and made them smile and made them happy when she would sing. So she knew she was bringing joy to people, and with country music. And country music is something that is huge here in Appalachia. It's our number one thing that we listen to, and that's what I grew up listening to. And so as she got through her teens, she got to be about 13, I think. She ended up finally getting to cut a record, and ended up on the Grand Ole Opry. And from there, she kept on struggling, trying to, get places to sing and things to do. But to Dolly, her education was very important. A lot of teenagers would have been like, let's take off and go to Nashville. I can go. I've got my first record at 13. I've been on the Grand Ole Opry. I'm ready to start my career. I don't care about my education. But she stayed in Sevierville, and she graduated from Sevier County High School, I think in about 1964. And at that point, she ended up heading to Nashville. I think the very next day after graduating, most kids go on a senior trip, go to the beach. She went to Nashville. I'm sure she'd been saving her money to get her a place to stay, and she met the love of her life, Carl Dean. I think the first or second day that she was there at the Wishy-Washy something laundromat in Nashville, and they were married for, I think, 57 years, 60 years, I don't know, a long time, maybe 62 years. Maybe somebody can put that in the comments there. But he passed away, I think, about a year ago. Carl Dean did, at about age 82. So he was someone that, no one ever saw. It was like the invisible man. But he didn't want to be on camera or on the news or in the limelight like Dolly. But they met there in 1964, and things progressed. They got married. They never did have any children, but as she was in Nashville and working on some albums, I think she came out with an album in 1967. She was not an immediate huge blow-up hit like we see today with viral media. We have a way today with the internet and social media and YouTube that a person can go viral really, really quick. But back in those days, everything was analog. It wasn't digital. So, you know, news of someone spread a lot slower. So Dolly Parton's talent today would be so much different than it was back then, because social media at 10 years old, her singing and having the talent she does, she would have been all over YouTube and already be a, you know, very famous by the time she was 12, 13 years old, if YouTube would have been back then. But because, you know, we had newspapers, we had radios, we had word of mouth, we didn't have a way to communicate news so much about talents like Dolly was, a singer and a songwriter. So it took a little while, you know, it took a little while to get her foot and figure out what type of music she was wanting to do. They first put her into singing the company. I can't think of the first little record company that signed her, but they tried to get her to do pop music. They thought her voice was better for pop than country. So they put her in a genre that just wasn't really her at the time. But I'm sure she was willing to do whatever. She was glad to have a contract and glad to be in Nashville and working. And before long, Porter Wagoner found her and discovered her. And she then became a part of the Porter Wagoner show. She replaced another lady that had been on there, and can't think of her name. I guess you all probably can right now, but the lady that was on the Porter Wagoner show that was a co-host on there singing with him, she left. I don't know the reason behind she left, and maybe that's something we'll look into later at some other time down the road, but she left, and that gave the opportunity for young Dolly to step in and take her place and be able to become on the national spotlight. The Porter Wagoner show for many, many years was the #1 music show on TV. It's kind of like America's Got Talent, or these big shows that we see now, that where you've got hundreds of millions of people that watch the views over a period of years. These shows now are a little different in that we have, let me see how I explain that. Today we have so many ways you can watch media. We have television still, we have radio, and then we have the internet. Then on the internet there's so different, many ways, Facebook, YouTube, different channels that do music. But back then you had 3 TV stations and the newspaper to get your media, your content, your entertainment. The things that we get now, we didn't have back then 50, 60 years ago. So, you know, things spreading about Dolly didn't spread as fast. So, but when she got on Porter Wagoner show, then it spread. If you was on a national TV show, then you had made it, because there were only like 3 stations back then. You know, you had, what did you have? You got ABC, NBC, and CBS, and that was it. I remember when, as a kid in the 70s, this new stations started coming online, like TBS and things like that. So there wasn't very many stations, and usually that station show was #1 when it played during that time slot during that week at that particular hour at night. So everybody had a #1 show out of, you know, 3 different networks. So when she finally did get on the national network, then people started learning who Dolly was and started falling in love with her personality, which she was a very, very smart lady, even at a young age. And she realized that after 7 years of being on the Porter Wagoner show, that it was time to step out on her own. I think she probably started late 60s, 69 maybe, close, and maybe earlier, 67, 68, but she was on there, I know, for 7 years. I think she originally did a 5-year contract to be on there, And that brought her quite a bit of fame, but it was also something that she had to deal with Porter Wagoner on. And from what I understand and from hearing interviews from Dolly, they butted heads a lot. They were a lot alike, and they argued and went on about different things going on the program. And she wanted to leave and do her own thing, and that's what she did. And she also got sued by Porter, and I think they finally settled on $1 million that she had to pay Porter for breaking her contract. So apparently she was in a contract. But she felt like that $1 million, and the Porter sued her to make her want her to come back. He wanted her on the show. He wasn't trying to get rid of her. He was trying to bring her back because she became the #1 star of the show. And Porter knew without her, wherever she went, those fans were going to follow. So he did what he could. He sued her and for $3 million. And from the stories, she settled on $1 million that she did not have at that time. She was not a millionaire in the early 70s as she was just getting started out. So I'm not for sure how that turned out, but eventually I think she probably paid off Porter, and many years later they become friends again. And she was at his bedside, I believe, when Porter passed away. So through the 70s, after she left Porter, she started working on her own career, and things was okay, so. Was not an explosion like I was saying earlier. Nowadays with viral media, a person can be unknown one week and the next week the whole world just about know who they are. Back in the 70s it was a little slower, but she continued going and going. And I saw an interview with her at age 40, and she looked like she was 20. Even at that point, dropped my phone. But she was such a beautiful lady. God gave her so many talents. You know, gave her the ability to sing, play, write, and love people. And care about people. Love is a gift of the Spirit. She loved her people. But, Dolly's first goal was to get to Nashville and get going, and that's what happened. Once she conquered Nashville, Nashville was too small. Okay, I'm trying not to cry, but Dolly has done so much. It's hard to look back and talk about this. And this is the reason I took a few days to make a video about Dolly, because I knew I had to let this sink in a little bit, or I wouldn't even got this far today on this video. But in that, she started doing movies. She went to Hollywood and made several movies, Still Magnolias and 9 to 5, and the song 9 to 5 was a #1 hit. So she started building a music career in the 80s and a movie career, and she just become, bigger known, bigger, especially the movies. Even people that didn't listen to country music would go see the movies. And then the thing about Dolly was, there's so many musicians, artists over the years, they kind of change, not as much as they need to, and they stay in the old style that they did. But Dolly didn't stay just in one particular style. She ended up doing pop and hitting the pop charts many times with songs, and even some rock. There just went a beautiful hawk flying by. All right, so I had to stop there a minute and look at that hawk, and get my composure a little bit. But Dolly started in the 80s wanting to do something for her hometown region, her home county, Sevierville, where she grew up. And the company, the family that owned Silver Dollar City, knew that Dolly was getting famous, bigger and bigger. She was from there, and they offered to let her buy 50% of Silver Dollar City. And we don't know exactly how much she had to pay, but she did put in cash equity. She bought into Dollywood, or into Silver Dollar City. They changed it and themed it to her park. And she was very active, even though I can't think of the family's name right now, that they were already in the amusement park business from other things that they had started doing. and they'd bought Silver Dollar City. That actually was under another name, Tombstone Junction maybe, I don't know, but they changed it to Silver Dollar City. Then it got named Dollywood, and ever since it's been Dollywood. Dolly did that in about 1986, and that was right after I graduated high school. And I remember going to Silver Dollar City as a kid. They had the train and all the rides and different things. But after Dolly came and it became Dollywood, and I guess she injected money into that, they started building more rides and expanding and probably buying more property. And now, you know, what has happened from that's 1985. That's still 40 something years ago when she invested into her local community. You know, sure, it's a good investment if you got money just sitting in the bank and you're an entertainer and something comes along to make you money that you can invest in. But it was more than just an investment to make money for Dolly. It was something that allowed her family to have a place to sing and play. All of her family would be there singing and playing in the early days, and she would show up at different times to do different events and openings of rides and different sections of the park. She would be there. So I was never there when Dolly was there, but you know, anytime she would show up to be in a parade in Sevierville or whatever, you know, there were tens of thousands of people that would come to see her. So Dollywood grew and grew, and she got pretty wealthy, I would think. I'm thinking as far back as 15 years ago, she was estimated to be worth $500 million, depending on how much assets she actually has in Dollywood. And all the others, not just Dollywood, I don't know if you know it or not, but there's all kinds of other theaters. You had the Dixie Stampede that I think they changed the name of, but she has restaurants and other places that they went ahead and done in Branson, Missouri, and I think Myrtle Beach. So it was a huge thing of different entertainment events and restaurants that she was a part of, that she was making money from. And you know, I think that making the money was important to her so that she could turn around and help other people. You know, that was what it's important. It wasn't about, never was about Dolly. And so the Dollywood is something I took my kids to, and there's over 3 million people a year, I think, probably visit Dollywood. It has thousands and thousands of jobs that's been created by it over the years, not just in Dollywood, but the surrounding area. If it was not for Dollywood, people wouldn't come and then stop at the motels and the restaurants and the different things. And you know, I've not been to Dollywood in years, but they got the water parks and they got motels, and gosh, it just becomes so big. You really would think that, I can't even keep up. I couldn't tell you. It'd be interesting to come up with a list of the different retail operations like that, or entertainment venues that she was a part of, owned part of, or whatever. But that money was important to her so that she could give it back. And I think somewhere in '86 she bought into the Silver Dollar City. It became Dollywood, and at that point, I think really the money that she was making from Dollywood, she just wanted to invest it back into the area. And she would do so many different programs. I think she did the Dollywood Foundation, and I'll look into that and probably bring you more videos if you're all interested in knowing more in-depth stuff about what Dolly did just in Sevierville area. Let me know the interest, and we'll maybe work on some more videos after Saturday. We got one coming, another video where we're going to go interview people, and we're going to look at her statue, and we're going to see how many people actually showed up to see her. I'm sure they're going to be traveling from across the world, and you know, and there's been many entertainers that have passed away, and thousands and thousands of people come to show their respect. And Dolly is, you know, going to have the same. She's the queen of country, they say, and not that, but she was global. She was a global icon. You know, she's a legend. There's not going to ever be another Dolly, just in the fact that she's done so much. She's donated so much money to education. She started helping donate $500 to each student that would graduate at Sevier County High School. Now, I could be off on the story a little bit, and I'm not for sure on the years, but Sevier County High School had a 36% dropout rate. And she knew that that's not good. She wanted the kids of Appalachia to be educated. And she did a lot of this, I think, because of her father not being able to read and write. But she offered, and I don't know how long that went on for, but if you graduated high school, she would give you $500. And that changed the Sevier County High School dropout rate from 36% to 6%. And that was amazing. And then she also started the Imaginary Library, which is going to probably at this point expand. Just got a couple $1 million donated by that other big, huge country star out there now that just got married to the football player. What's their name? Is that Taylor Swift? I don't know. I don't keep up with that music, but they just recently got a $2 million donation, and they asked in lieu of flowers, sending flowers, to donate to the Imagination Library. And that way kids can continue to get books. And that Imagination Library that she started with the money, I'm sure that came from so many different projects she's got going on. But that Imaginary Library has put out almost now, before long, it's going to be 400 million books to kids, providing a kid a book, I think, once a month up to they're 5 years old. And that also changed reading so much that kids, by the time they were hitting kindergarten, those kids that had got the books from the Imaginary Library could read so much better. So to me, things like that she done is so amazing. And she loved to sing, but she loved to write even more. And the song she wrote, "I Will Always Love You," was probably her biggest song that she wrote that another artist sung. And the money that she made from the royalties from "I Will Always Love You," when Whitney Houston sung it on the movie for the soundtrack, The Bodyguard, she made millions of dollars on that one song from the copyright, because still today, I think that is the #7 most watched or listened to single ever released. And so the millions of dollars that she made from the royalties, she donated it to build a studio in a black community in Nashville. Yeah. So music and the money she made from her music was really just a tool, an avenue, or a vehicle to be able to make the money to, invest in Dollywood and continue to grow and do so many things. And so her life is, even all the way back to the 80s, she started changing Sevierville and becoming more and more a part of the tourism, people coming there because of Dollywood, and because, Sevier County has kind of always been Dollywood, the whole area, Dolly Parton's hometown. And, the whole area, the whole region is successful and has tens of thousands of jobs because of her investment in the 80s in the Dollywood. And so we're going to, my nose is itching where I'm crying a little bit, I'm sorry. I'm hoping that you're still with me here. I know I'm rambling on a little bit about Dolly, but there's so many things to talk about her. She donated so much money privately that nobody ever knew about. People estimate that she'd be worth over $1 billion. It's estimated she's worth at her death between $450 and $650 million, but I see that number is going to be more than that, most likely, due to the value the assets she had now that she's passed away, those numbers will jump up probably. Like this year coming, Dollywood will probably have its best year ever. More people will come to Dollywood to visit, to show respect and tribute to Dolly. So some of her assets that's still now in her family trust, I guess, whatever trust she left behind, will continue doing the things that she did. But, you know, she donated money to help with vaccines. She donated money to the wildfires. When the wildfires hit Sevier County, they were, I think, 950 families. She did a telethon, raised money that she could give 950 families $1,000 a month for 6 months. I think it was $12.5 million she raised for that. Then there was a flood in Middle Tennessee. She donated $700,000. And then the Helene hurricane that I covered, and I was able, fortunately, to use the channel to show people stories, and through the channel and through letting people know what was going on, the channel was able to help people there with the Helene hurricane by exposing people's stories and letting people know who they were and what was going on. And so I really feel proud to be able to help at doing that through the channel, when we help, you know, so many different people by just showing their story, and then other people reach out to them, and once they hear their story, then want to help them financially or whatever. And we do that still to this day. We have Eddie and Mary that we're working with now for a year, and they've kind of been our project that we're trying to help them get situated. We're not Dolly Parton Foundation. We don't have the money that Dolly did. I drive a vehicle with over a quarter million miles on it, and over 20 years old. But the channel does reach people, and people that watch the channel are very good, loving Christian people, and they like to reach out and help the people that we, you know, document and show their stories. And that was what happened with, you know, so many different times that Dolly would donate so many. It's millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that she raised or donated and helped through so much that she's done. So the story of Dolly, just, you know, even up to just last year getting an award for, I think, what was that one? An Academy Award. She's won so many different types of awards that it'd be impossible to have a list of everything that she's ever been nominated for, and then also nominated and won. Oh gosh, Dolly's done so much. The Appalachia is never going to be the same again without her, but she'll always, always be remembered in Appalachia. Her books will still come. People will still donate. Her foundation will be there. The money from Dollywood, the trust that's left behind, I'm sure that money will continue even many years past her death. Her music, her income that's coming in from royalties on the music and all the different business investments, I'm sure she set it up for that to continue to help her beloved Appalachia. She loves her people, her family, her country. She's one of the most non-controversial entertainers. She stayed out of politics. She didn't get into politics, and there's not very many people that can say much bad about Dolly Parton because she loved everybody. You know, she loved them no matter how they were or where they were at. The poorer they were, I think, the more she cared for them. I think also the medical center in Sevierville, the LeConte Medical Center, I'm pretty sure she donated probably a big part of what it would cost to build an entire hospital there in Sevier County. So it'd be interesting to put the list together of all the different people she's touched and affected, and a lot of them we'll never know, because she donated money and said, well, what we understand is you can't, we're going to donate money, I'm going to donate money, but you can't tell nobody where it came from, because she wanted to be able to give that money and to who she wanted to without, I'm sure, you know, when they found out, people find out that has other type of organizations that want help and financing, they're going to reach out to Dolly. And that can become aggravating to have thousands of people reaching out and wanting money. So she didn't always tell people about the money that she gave out, because she knew when she did that, it would cause more people to reach out to her, I'm sure. So, you know, I'm sure their foundation knows how much she gave. Maybe they'll release that someday. It would be very interesting to find out. If you have a story about Dolly Parton and you live in Sevier County, Sevierville there, if you knew her personally and she affected your life some way and you met her, let me know. I have my email in the description. Reach out to me. I'd like to come do an interview with you, and I'd like to interview people that Dolly's affected their life. Like me, I've never met her. I've never been to one of her concerts. I've never bought one of her tapes. I've never been a big music fan. I listen to music in the car, and, you know, never much. Back when I was in high school, I listened to some of the old classic rock, and as I got older, I started listening to country. But in the last 20 years, Dolly's not had a huge amount of hits. She's not really done a lot of music like she did in her earlier years. So she did do some rock songs. She got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I couldn't even tell you how many Halls of Fame. Songwriter Hall of Fame. I don't know how many there are, but anything that you could be inducted into, she was inducted into. And I think that she'll probably be receiving another award. I think it's a humanitarian award, maybe a presidential award, most likely will be presented for her work in philanthropy. I can't say it. You know, if you watch the channel, you know I have a problem with certain words. Philanthropy, no, I can't say it. Anyways, giving money away. She did that so much, and I think that it brought so much joy to see the people that she helped. And most of the kids that got the book, they don't know Dolly from her songs, like some of us older ones do, but the ones that got books from her and still get books from her know her as the book lady, and she loved that. Well, guys, I'm gonna get off here. I can't go on anymore, I don't think right now, but I am gonna have another video coming out. Make sure to hit that subscribe. Another video about Dolly. I'm gonna take you all and show you what's going on Saturday, August the 29th. Who's there, what's going on, and talk and interview. If you're gonna be there, look me up. I'll be somewhere. If you can't find me, write me on my personal Facebook or the Appalachian channel. I'll try to check my messages, but we will be around the area where the statue's at, and I'm expecting it's gonna be very hard to find parking. We'll be there filming the different people that's coming and doing interviews. So if you're in the Sevierville area and you want to come out, hopefully we'll be there by 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, and then we'll try to stay there a big part of the day depending on how hot it gets, and then maybe come back in the evening and film some in the evening there. So guys, God bless you. Keep us in your prayers. Keep the Dollywood Foundation in your prayers. That will continue on in the Dolly's family, and all the fans are hurting. So keep everybody in prayer, because Appalachia will never be the same after the passing of Dolly. God bless you. Bye-bye.